Georgia's won 8 in a row, but it's in Tennessee this year. Tennessee feels confident about this matchup. The line is pretty short for the fact that Georgia is one of the national title favorites per FanDuel in any sports book you look at. And Tennessee, they beat Syracuse, but Syracuse is able to score points on them, and Tennessee does not recruit at the caliber that Georgia does. Even the most optimistic Tennessee fan will tell you that. So, what's up with this game, and what's Tennessee's path to victory here? That's the storyline. Again, Georgia's won 8 in a row. So, why is this line small, and what can the Volunteers do to emerge with a win here? Well, I want to start off with painting a picture of how this matchup has gone really the previous 3 years. Or we could even go to 2021, but I don't want to do that because that was Heupel's first year. So 2022, Tennessee embarrasses Alabama's defense. That Alabama defense was, a top 5 defense in advanced analytics. Before I resume, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bells, and comment your thoughts down below. I love your engagement. Don't just hit the notification bell for my main channel. Hit the bell for any team playlists attached to the video if interested. If your team is not there or you're not interested, please navigate to my home channel page. Check out the playlists tab. Your team will be there if it's a Power 4 team. And hit the notification bell so that you can get notified when I cover that specific team. If you want additional content, bonus content, sign up as a paid member of the channel with the appropriate tier. I also give priority reply to members. And check out our Discord server. It's free. You get to interact with me. I get to pop in there. And the Discord server will notify you when we go live or when I upload videos. But that was just because talent was carrying them. That's straight up what it was. Against Tennessee, and you saw this even a bit against LSU, that defense folded when it mattered most. I think that what happened in that game was Tennessee and Josh Heupel and Alex Golesh outcoached Pete Golding. They were able to identify mismatches, and Alabama did not have the defensive line and defensive front, not even close to what Georgia did. Even with Alabama having Will Anderson, Alabama that year was pretty light on the defensive line. And not being able to have disruptors up front, several of them, against an offense that Heupel runs, which is, all about timing. Many think it's a pure passing offense, but it's not. Passing is a very important component and spreading out the defense wide. But they like to run the ball, and they like to run it down your throat. And with the matchup edge that they had at receiver on DB, combined with the matchup edge they had running the football, they were going to score on Alabama's defense. But that same year, Georgia mauls them in Athens, and a big part of the reason why is Georgia had the superior D-line, the superior O-line, the superior defense, and probably had the superior secondary, and were also better coached. Georgia, historically, has just been a much worse matchup, and by historically, I mean in the 2020s, a worse matchup for Tennessee than Alabama has been. In fact, I would argue Tennessee is a good matchup, schematically, coaching, roster-wise against Alabama, and a bad matchup, historically, in recent memory versus Georgia. But is that the case this year? Is it? Well, I think that in a certain sense, you can make the argument that now's the time, because both lost a ton. Georgia has looked shaky at quarterback. We don't know what Georgia's offensive line situation is. Tennessee's at home. I think we know that parts of Tennessee's defense are solid, and based on what I've seen against Syracuse, and I know East Tennessee State's an FCS team, but regardless of that, Tennessee still, I think, can run the ball and run it quite well, and Aguilar has had some good moments. On the other hand, though, part of me thinks that Tennessee's year, in a sense, was last season, when Georgia was banged up, when Georgia had the inferior rushing offense, when Tennessee had an electric defensive line and defensive front that is certainly better than this year's, and when they were able to jump out to look a 10-0 lead and score 17 points in the first half. But Georgia was able to gain control, and through superior quarterback play, home field advantage, better second half adjustments, they ended up with a win. There is a lot of unknowns in this game. This will be the toughest test that either team has faced so far. Georgia has a 0.592 scoring offense in terms of points per play. They score almost 0.6 points per play. But that is a sample that purely comes from Marshall. Don't look at FCS opponents, or at least these numbers don't. For Tennessee, they score 0.662 points per play. That one sample coming from a Syracuse team that we don't know is better than Marshall. And then defensively, Georgia so far I think has been more impressive than Tennessee through the numbers. The same as how Tennessee through the numbers has been more impressive than Georgia offensively. Georgia's defense only allowing 0.135 points per play. Tennessee allowing 0.292 points per play. That number's a little bit concerning given the Syracuse team they played, and we'll come back to that. But Georgia's quarterback play, to a certain degree, has also been a little bit concerning as well. FPI thinks Tennessee should slightly be favored here. 18.9 points better than the average team is what Tennessee's rating is. That's 9th. Georgia's is 6th with a 20.3 rating. Georgia, I think you got Zachariah Branch. I think you got Colby Young as some of your X-Factor receivers, and I think that is a X-Factor unit for Georgia. The defensive line with Christian Miller, Gabe Harris, Elo Madozi, a linebacker where you got Chris Cole, and you also have C.J. Allen and Raylan Wilson. For Tennessee, their running backs, Deshaun Bishop, Star Thomas, tight end Miles Kitzelman, and then on the defensive line, they're not as strong as they were last year, but I think they have some players at defensive end that personally impress me. So Dominic Bailey, for example, Joshua Josephs. They do bring back Brycen Eason at nose tackle. So that plus, Arian Carter, Jeremiah Tillander, who both came back from last year and had significant playing time, is encouraging. This is a rivalry game. It is a game with a ton of excitement, with a lot at stake. It would be massive for Tennessee to earn a win here, given everything that transpired in the preseason, and the fact that many reacted to Nico leaving Tennessee saying, yeah, this is a rebuild year. You're not doing anything. With Tennessee's schedule, if they earn this win, they're probably going to the playoffs. Especially, too, with how Florida's season has gone. There's a chance that Florida could quit by the time they play them. Alabama doesn't look as strong as even some of Alabama's doubters thought they were going to be in the preseason. And if they beat Georgia, who at this point looks like their toughest opponent all year, who's to say they can't go to Atlanta if they somehow pull this off? So this is a program game for Tennessee. That cannot be overstated. As for Georgia here, I wouldn't call this a program game, because I think if Georgia loses this, you still have Kirby Smart. You still have all the talent in the world. It's only one of your 3 true road games, and who knows, Tennessee might be one of the better teams on your schedule, and because you're a younger team in Georgia right now, you'll probably get better as the year goes on. It's better to lose a game here and now and use that as fire and motivation and the coaches to go back to the drawing board with something while your team is young and while you're looking to help them maximize their potential, rather than later in the year. Especially since the committee we all know is recency bias. It's better to lose earlier in the year than later in the year. My question for both of these teams is, how real have they been in the first 2 weeks? What have they shown us that's legitimate? What are overblown concerns? Are they hiding anything? I've been very public before on this channel and also on my Twitter that I think Georgia is hiding stuff. With Tennessee, I don't quite know. They're not as talented as Georgia. I think their staff internally probably knows that. And I think everyone with a brain thought that Syracuse would be better than they turned out to be. Maybe not everyone with a brain. There were some people with a brain who totally saw that coming. The Syracuse near collapse against UConn and them getting destroyed by Tennessee. I thought they'd lose pretty badly to Tennessee. The fact they almost lost to UConn was kind of a shocker in a sense. A key factor that we've already just touched on are schematic changes. Is the matchup any different than what it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago? Is it like last year's? Is it somewhere in between? If you're Tennessee, you're hoping it's like last year's matchup because Stockton is not as good of a thrower of the football as Beck, and you're at home. I think, I'll say this here, that 2024 Tennessee beats Georgia if they play this Georgia in Neyland. I think they'd beat them. Now, by how much? I do not know. Probably not by much, but I think they'd find a way to win. I think the matchup would just be too good that it would compensate for some advantages that Georgia has. But we're not talking about 2024 Tennessee. With Nico, with Dylan Sampson, with a more experienced offensive line, and a deeper defense, and also healthy corners, which Tennessee doesn't have. We're talking about this Tennessee team. So some other factors to pay attention to are superior QB play. Is Stockton as bad as some advertise? Is he as good as maybe his optimists and supporters advertise? Is Aguilar as good as his supporters advertise? Who makes the better second half adjustments? And which offensive line is able to better compensate for their inexperience and play a better game? Those are very important factors. If Gunnar Stockton is a great QB, I don't like Tennessee's chances here because I think they have the air advantage with their receivers and how much they've upgraded compared to how much Tennessee arguably compared to last year's downgraded defensively, especially on the defensive side of the ball when you factor in the current injuries. Their two starting corners, Jermon McCoy, who I think is an All-American, they won't be playing in this game. That's huge. It's absolutely huge. And yet that line is only 3.5 in favor of Georgia. So makes you think a little bit. Vegas sportsbooks are definitely expecting a close game here. But if Aguilar's the superior quarterback and Stockton is maybe bad, then Georgia's probably not taking advantage of the injuries at DB. And Georgia's been a little bit more vulnerable at DB than in prior years as well. So there are things to take advantage of here from both sides. When I peer at these rosters and come down to make the final decision, I can't help but think to myself that Georgia isn't just more talented. It's the idea that Georgia has done a better job developing their roster. I think that Georgia's offense versus Tennessee's defense is going to be, pretty back and forth. It's going to be like a tug of war with no winner. What I think pulls Georgia across that line to win that battle of tug of war is their defense against Tennessee's offense. I have no idea how Tennessee's going to be able to move the ball in this game. No idea at all. I don't know. I think that, look, hanging 40 points on Syracuse is impressive. Newsflash. Syracuse had a pretty mediocre offense, and they put up 26 points on you. They have a defense that's probably non-existent given how many points they surrendered to a UConn team that is far less talented than Syracuse. And they did so at home. It's not like they traveled to UConn. And sometimes in those sleepy matchups, home field advantage can almost matter more than in some of these bigger matchups where the players, a lot of teams, I think, feed off of opponent crowd noise. Ohio State does this. Just look at how they play Penn State in Happy Valley. They feed off crowd noise. Alabama, Georgia, they do this. The great teams, even some teams that aren't national title contenders but are just well coached, they feed off of adversity. They feed off crowd noise. They don't quit. So I believe that Georgia's the better roster, the vastly better staff. They are vastly more talented. And it'd be one thing if Tennessee had a big experience edge and also a big roster edge. That's kind of the 2021 Michigan versus 2021 Ohio State comparison there. Except 2021 Michigan was at least better coached than 2021 Ohio State was. That's not the case here. So not only does Tennessee not have a key matchup edge like they have over Alabama, or a coaching edge as they had over Alabama in 22, over Alabama last year, and as some other big-time games, big rivalry games where maybe the inferior team in terms of high school recruiting talents had a matchup edge roster-wise over their opponent. Tennessee doesn't have any of those, I don't think. I like Georgia to win, and I like them to cover cover that 3.5-point spread. And I like them to do it in kind of a big-time fashion. I like them to not necessarily dominate this game, but I like them to win decisively, win by 10 or more points here. I think that it will look similar to not 20. Thank you so much for watching College Football with Sam. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bells, and comment your thoughts down below. Again, for the notification bells, don't just hit the bell for my main channel, hit it for any team playlists attached, or if you're not interested in those teams, navigate to my channel homepage, to the playlists tab. There will be a playlist for your favorite team if it's a Power 4 team. Hit the notification bell for that playlist so you can get notified when I mention them or talk about the conference broadly that they reside in. If you want bonus content, sign up as a paid member. And our Discord server is totally free. You get to interact with me and several other diehard football fans in there. So do those things. Most of them are free. And if you want to go the extra mile, there's always the Patreon page and YouTube memberships.